Okay, so we are now recording. Oh, and I want to remind audience, even though you probably don't need to be reminded, just to give a lot of support to our speakers, you know, and have your camera on if at all possible, so our speakers can feel supported. And John, so yeah, John, it's fine. We'll have you go first. So whenever you're ready, and don't forget, you guys are supposed to be sharing a screen, right? Because you should have visuals, right?
Yeah, I just want to, before I begin, just kind of get set up to make sure everything is.
Of course, just totally take your time with that. I know it takes a bit to get that started.
So if I do this, can you all see both the slideshow screen and myself?
Yes.
Okay. Give me one moment and I'll. Morning, everyone. How much plastic do you use every day? When was the last time you used a plastic straw? Do you ever think about it? Plastic is so common in our daily lives that we rarely ever stop to consider how often we use it. The problem is that plastic is a harmful pollutant and it affects each and every one of us. I too am affected by plastic's presence, but after spending some time researching and learning more about plastic waste, I've learned to be a bit more cautious about how much I use. Plastic invades our everyday lives and has harmful effects on our health and the environment, but we can all take steps to reduce plastic waste. Today, I'll be discussing the presence of plastic in our everyday lives, the presence of plastic and microplastics in the environment and their harmful effects. And I'll also be discussing some easy life changes we can all make to reduce our use of plastic and plastic waste. First, let's consider how often we use plastic in any given day. Plastic can be found everywhere in our lives. Simply going grocery shopping and you'll be surrounded by products that are encased in plastic, individually wrapped in plastic. In fact, Alejandra Barunda, a columnist for National Geographic, describes plastic in these settings as being so common it's almost invisible. Even after you're done shopping, you'll typically end up putting your new groceries in plastic bags. Another common source of plastic in our daily lives are single-use plastic utensils, like the plastic forks and knives that are commonly given out at fast food, drive-thrus, and all that. And the problem is that they're so mass-produced and so commonly given, they just keep polluting more and more and more every single day. But what impact does this have on us, and why should we care? The use of plastic and its waste is harmful to humans, animals, and the environment. Now, plastic tends not to really break down and deteriorate over time. Instead, it just kind of breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces. The common plastic utensils and straws are many different kinds of plastic waste that deteriorate into these little micro pieces. These small broken up pieces of plastic in the environment are typically referred to as microplastics. These microplastics can be harmful to the health of humans and other organisms. Sea life might ingest some of these plastics, microscopic little pieces of plastic, and then that sea life is caught and cooked and prepared for human consumption. And that plastic then ends up finding its way into people. In a review done for the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health, scholars have found so much plastic waste fossilized within rock to the point that some in the academic community refer to our era as the Plasticine, kind of a reference to the various geological eras of Earth. There's so much plastic fossilized in rock that it's very visibly noticeable, changing the environment. According to Courtney Lindwall, a columnist for National Resources Defense Council, a nonprofit environmental Advocacy Organization. She reports that exposure to these microplastics, along with the chemicals they've been treated with, can have numerous impacts on human health, including hormonal imbalances, reproductive issues such as infertility, and cancer. And although recycling can help the reduction of plastic waste, Lindwall also reports that 91% of plastic ultimately isn't recycled properly. So what can we do to reduce plastic waste? Changes in our behavior and changes in legislation can reduce the amount of plastic waste in the environment. In 2016, Californians voters approved Proposition 67, which banned the use of flimsy, non-reusable plastic bags at grocery stores, retail chains, and small little 7-Eleven type stop-ins. Although these new bags that replace them come at a fee, they're hefty and far more durable and reusable, taking up less waste in the environment. The World Wildlife Fund, one of the world's largest conservation organizations, suggests several life changes to help reduce plastic waste. These changes include using personal cups or drinking containers instead of bottled water, eliminating the use of plastic cutlery, and using plastic alternatives such as aluminum foil instead of plastic wrap. These lifestyle changes take little investment and could save you money in some cases, and it comes at almost no inconvenience for a significant reduction in plastic waste. Additionally, advocating for companies to make changes to their business can limit the amount of plastic waste. Companies can change their plastic utensils in exchange for biodegradable ones. These changes can help fix the immediate problem we face today. Plastic is everywhere in our lives, so much so that we hardly notice it at times, and its waste will remain in the environment for a dramatically long amount of time. And it can have negative life and health consequences for living organisms, including humans. However, we as individuals can make changes in our personal lives and can cooperate together to inspire change collectively. That will help eliminate this growing problem. The evidence I have found shows the negative consequences of plastic waste and has also shown that small lifestyle changes can reduce plastic waste and that cooperating to create change can lead to legislation that targets plastic waste. We must make and inspire these changes to promote a healthier and cleaner world free of this choking waste. If we do not make these changes, the plastic you use could be very well found inside of you one day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic. Thank you, John. So Narangu, when you are ready, just take your time.
Can you see the screen?
Yep. Hold on, I gotta quiet my dog. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. Ready when you are, Naranga.
Yeah, I'm ready. Don't you want to travel around the world and be immersed in the culture. We think that learning language is hard and make it an excuse not to experience the greatest opportunities it gives us. I noticed all the benefits of learning language throughout my language learning journey, so I want to share with you all. Learning different languages in addition to English will benefit us students in many different ways. Today, I will discuss the benefits of learning language and the objections of learning a language. In the end, I will cover some good tips on how to learn a language. Let's dive into all the benefits of learning a language. There are a lot of benefits in learning additional languages. According to Middlebury Language School, there are some of the cognitive benefits include good problem-solving skills and improved verbal and spatial abilities, memory function, and enhanced creative thinking capacity. According to Education Corner, author Loveless, learning a language also improves academic performance. The results of studies show strong positive connection between the study of foreign language and improvement in reading comprehension. The adolescent bilingual score higher on reading tasks than skilled monolingual readers of the same age group. Also, several studies indicate there is a positive correlation between the length of time high school students take foreign language and SAT verbal scores. At least 1 year of foreign language study statistically increased scores on verbal SAT relative to students who did not take a year of foreign language study. Learning another language helps you in your career. We live in a multilingual world where we have to communicate with different people. Having more than one language can offer you good jobs. According to Forbes Technology Center, in a recent survey, up to 35% of those who are responsible for hiring people in the survey reported that employees' proficiency in another language resulted extended job offer, recommended promotion, and pay raise. Let's discuss the misconception that learning language is difficult and unnecessary. People often object that learning language is tough in every way. According to Multidisciplinary Digital Publishing Institute, doctors state that what many learners fail to appreciate is that times of struggle can be most beneficial. Research on memory and learning has demonstrated that we retain information better if it's encoded under the conditions of desirable difficulty. For example, varying the learning context, distributing practice over time, and introducing interference have all been shown to improve retention of skills and knowledge over time. Let me tell you some good tips on learning languages. There are many ways we can acquire a new language. Personally, I found repetition and watching shows are a great way to learn a language. With repetition, you can memorize and remember words and phrases more effectively. When you watch shows, you pick up on daily words and phrases, plus it's more fun. According to Learning Center, University of North Carolina, some strategies of learning language include seeking balance, practice both spoken and written language, and make sure to include the 3 key principles: input, output, and feedback. Overcoming our fear of making mistakes. Learning a language is all about making mistakes and learning from them. Spread out study time. Break up study time into multiple small sessions and separations. For example, study for 30 minutes and take a break for 10 minutes and go back to your studying. Bumping up your memory. If associating a word with picture is effective for you, then you should incorporate images into your vocabulary practice. Learning lots of vocabulary. The more vocabulary you know, the more quickly you can grow your language skills. And lastly, make it a habit. Create a routine where you memorize vocabulary while drinking your coffee. And wrap up, we should at least give it a try for learning additional languages. Learning language benefit in a variety of ways, as I mentioned earlier, and learn language and follow efficient language learning strategies. Just as in these previous studies, students who took foreign language classes performed well in their tests and academic tasks. Now set up at least 10 minutes to learn new vocabulary. And lastly, I would say watch your favorite show in a different language. Thank you.
Sorry, guys. RC, whenever you're ready.
All right. Have you realized what has been on the news repeatedly? Gas prices and Uber and Lyft prices. For students like us that attend community college, transportation is very important to be able to attend class, the library, and meet with professors. Public transportation has been a part of our country for several years. Many of these forms of public transportation provide many skills, benefits to our environment, and help communities that are not able to transport themselves or afford other forms of transportation. Buses, subways, and shuttles help people, and when we use these forms of transportation, we are helping our environment. According to brief history, the first bus was a horse-drawn carriage in 1662 France that allowed to carry 10 people. By our involvement in technology and means of transportation, our buses in the US are now able to hold up to 40 to 80 people. To speak about public transportation, I think that people should have used public transportation before informing other people about it. I have been using public transportation for 4 years now, and this includes subways, buses, trolleys, and ferries. I'm here to give you my personal experience and how you can also experience this ability of being completely independent while you're traveling. In these couple minutes, I will go over the skills that public transportation helps people develop, as well as environmental impact on our city and who public transportation is for. Now that I've given you an idea of what I'll be discussing, let's move on to the interesting facts of public transportation. In this ever-growing world, we are always innovating and creating more resources that slowly pollute our planet. Riding the bus helps our planet by being a part of that percentage of the population that helps lower emissions. The U.S. Department of Transportation states that car transportation alone accounts for 47% of carbon footprint of a typical American family with 2 cars. When we use a bus, we reduce that percentage to 33%. In riding your city's local transportation, you're helping the environment by decreasing your carbon footprint. If you're wondering how much carbon dioxide emissions public transportation reduces, the answer is 37 million metrics annually. Now, to have a greater understanding, let's convert that to pounds, which would be roughly 115 million pounds of carbon dioxide gone. What is a carbon footprint? Your carbon footprint is the total greenhouse emissions that a person creates throughout their day-to-day practices. According to the public transportation's role in responding to climate change, the U.S. Federal Transit Administration, switching to riding public transportation is one of the most effective actions individuals can take to reduce their carbon footprint. The importance of eliminating carbon dioxide comes from the major impacts that it has on our health and well-being of the planet. Such health risks that come from exceedingly high amounts of greenhouse emissions are stated in reducing greenhouse emissions can improve air quality and save lives. Here, they mention exposure to outdoor air pollution has been linked to heart and respiratory diseases and was recently classified as a human carcinogen by the International Agency for Research of Cancer. This information is not to scare you or worry you about your health, but to inform you. Students that are the future of our lives to help this issue by taking the first step by taking public transportation when you can. Buses not only lower carbon emissions, but they can also lower our finances and boost personal lives. When riding public transportation, a person can learn several values and skills. After doing some research, I have seen that patience is a skill that people take away from riding the bus. In an article written in the LA Times, they say, riding the bus has taught me the virtue of patience and it helped me in my job. What is learned on the way over to work can later be applied to any task that you're doing. Patience is important in any aspect of your life because it contributes to your performance. In riding public transportation, you have more time on your hands to do other activities. In an article post they mention, during the commute, you can also read or just enjoy the view, which will help you in boosting your dopamine hormones and reducing your stress levels. I know what you're thinking. I could do that in an Uber too. The difference is that your mind is more at ease by feeling safer in a bus that is provided by the state and goes through extensive care to train the drivers and be surrounded by fellow commuters. Like college students, we're navigating the unknown waters of financial aid, tuition, and if you plan on transferring to a university, saving money is very crucial. In an AAA report, they bring the annual expense of using a personal vehicle can amount to more than $8,558. This includes gas, insurance, maintenance, finance charges, taxes, and the cost of tires. If you were to resort to using public transportation of a bus in Napa, which is the Vine Transit, their monthly transit passes is $36. Annually, that'll be $432, which means you just placed $8,126 into your savings account for college or future investments. And learning about the fundamental facts about public transportation, let's talk about who benefits the most and why we should continue to advocate for better and more accessible modes of transportation. The majority of public transportation riders are people with disabilities, low income, and people who live further away from their jobs or school. The mode of transportation that helps people complete their activities, get to school or work, and also allow them to have a safe spot to ride. In Who Ride Public Transportation, they state 46% of riders indicate that there was no vehicle available for them while available on an ongoing basis. Public transportation allows to have the ability to travel without having to risk financial problems or of a private vehicle. The purpose of the statement is to inform you that by using public transportation, you're increasing the amount of riders in our local transit, which often result in improvements for the community that needs it the most. For example, an improvement that was made recently this year in our local Vine Transit is by making the route shorter, as well as stopping on street and areas that had more people making stops at. For many riders that have a disability, this helps them by not having to travel much further to the next stop or to their next destination. There is still room for improvement for our local transit by people urging them to improve their routes. We are one step closer. For now, I believe that you're well informed on why using public transportation is important. Public transportation has provided our city, community, and country with several benefits which continue to evolve over time and progress. Whether they are environmental, personal, and community benefits, this mode of transportation has been researched to be most beneficial for busy people and students. I hope that this presentation has allowed you to know more about the importance of public transportation, as well as urged you to utilize local transit for future trips and travels. Thank you.
That was fantastic. Good job. Jewel, whenever you are ready.
Can you see my screen?
So far, it's, yeah, I can see, I don't see a slide. Oh, there we go. There it is. It's perfect.
Okay. Do you and your family have emergency supplies ready for use in the event of disaster? If you answered no, you are not alone. 48% of Americans aren't prepared for the possible event of emergency. To increase your chances of survival in the event of a natural disaster or food shortage, I urge you to have a stockpile of food and emergency supplies on hand. 2 years ago, with the onset of coronavirus, we all learned that life as we know it can change in an instant. This made me realize that the things that we consider normal, like always having access to a stocked grocery store, may not always be. Therefore, I decided to do some research to figure out how we can best be prepared for whatever hardship may come next in these uncertain times. Today, I want to share with you about the likeliness of emergency. Then I will assure you how you can feel confident and prepared with survival food and supplies. First, let me begin with informing you about your chances of actually needing to use survival supplies and skills. Natural disasters or food shortages can affect anyone at any time. Due to climate change, the amount and severity of natural disasters is rising. Journalist Daniel Pavlanovic claims, in the last 50 years, the number of weather-related disasters has multiplied by 5. And as Diana Aulick of CNBC News warns, roughly 35 million homes, or nearly 1/3 of the nation's housing stock, are at high risk of natural disaster. Unfortunately, some of our homes may be included in this statistic. Similarly, the possibility of food shortages affecting the United States is rising. As mentioned by journalist Josh Wingrove, President Biden said that the world will experience food shortages as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Although these food shortages aren't likely to be severe for Americans, this statement serves as a reminder that food shortages can be the result of not only climate, but political events, which happen frequently. Furthermore, in 2020, it was reported that nearly 1 in 4 American households experienced food insecurity. Clearly, pandemics can also cause food shortages. Now that you know that survival emergencies can happen at any place and time, you can rest assured in knowing that you can take action to prevent hunger. It is imperative that you have an emergency food supply. As stated by the CDC, a disaster can easily disrupt the food supply at any time, so plan on having at least a 3-day supply of food on hand. Natural disasters, which are becoming more common, can prevent one from accessing food, which is why this is so important. In the case of a more drastic event or economic disaster, having a larger amount of food can be a lifesaver. According to Log 10 of Food Service, drought, floods, and hurricanes all present unique challenges to food processors and manufacturers, and many of them are unprepared for catastrophe. Therefore, food production can be halted at any time. An article from ready.gov recommends having ready-to-eat canned meats, fruits, vegetables, protein or fruit bars, dry cereal or granola, peanut butter, dried fruit, water, etc., to prepare for the time when food is inaccessible. Once you have your emergency food, it's time to start thinking about survival gear. Survival gear can be the determining factor in your chances of taking care of yourself before help arrives. As mentioned by Survival Life, more often than not, a disaster scenario will last for seconds, minutes, or even hours, but first aid and disaster relief can take 2 to 3 days. If you want to survive a deadly situation, you have to be proactive. Rather than having to wait days for someone to save your family, you can prepare yourself now so that you are the hero on the day disaster strikes. Start collecting a first aid kit, toiletries, cleaning supplies, extra clothing, tools, flashlights, spare documents, personal documents, and spare cash. After gathering the basics, I encourage you to think of your family's personal needs and anything that may be required to fulfill them. For example, think of those with medical conditions that may make them more vulnerable to an emergency. As shared in a story by the CDC, when Hurricane Sandy hit, a young girl named Stephanie had recently undergone kidney transplant surgery when Hurricane Sandy hit. She required refrigerated medicine. When the hurricane resulted in no electricity, Stephanie's health was in danger as her medicine couldn't be refrigerated. Fortunately, the fire department was able to keep her medicine cool. As exemplified in Stephanie's story, it is essential that you think of every family's unique needs. Have a ready-to-go bag of things like medications, medical records, diapering supplies, eyeglasses, and whatever else may be necessary. And if someone requires refrigerated medicine, consider investing in a powered generator. Now that you know that disaster can and may strike and how to prepare for it, I want to close with a few words. Due to the increasing probability of needing them, I encourage you to stock up on the life-saving items of food and survival supplies. When it comes to preparing for a disaster, people may call you crazy or paranoid. But if the day ever comes, you'll be the one calling them hungry and tired as you enjoy your food. But if you start prepping now, you'll have enough to share, even with those who called you crazy as they saw you unboxing your emergency flashlight set from Amazon. So keep prepping. After all, as we all know, it's better to be safe than sorry.
That was absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Okay, our last speaker today is Rebecca.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Mhm. Okay, so my presentation today is going to be just a bunch of my clips relating to the
Hey,
topic of
Rebecca.
why.
Sorry to interrupt you, but is there any way you can have your camera on too?
Oh, is it not showing?
It is now.
Oh, okay.
I can see now. Yep.
Okay.
But for some reason your slides go away.
Okay, let me see. Hmm.
If for some reason you can't do both, you can just have your camera on and do your speech, and then at the end you could show us your slides. I'll give you extra time to show.
Okay,
Would you like to do that?
I'll just do that. Yeah. Okay. So my topic's going to be on students who bully should be expelled. So how many of you have been a victim of in-school bullying or know someone who has? Bullying consists of many different behaviors such as threatening, taunting, and or hitting that are usually initiated by one or more people against one. Victims of bullying are often picked on because of their skin color, weight, how they dress, accent, and many more things that may differ from individual to individual. More often than not, students who are constantly getting bullied on a daily basis, whether it may be at school or online, they are all ranging from different ages. According to the National Center for Education Statistics and Bureau of Justice, bullying is a huge problem around the world. Did you know that nationwide, about 22% of students ages 12 to 18 reported being bullied in school? Bullying among students not only affects academic performance, but it causes mental and physical harm. And with that, bullies should face the consequences given. When you bully, you cause a negative impact on the student or individual that you are currently bullying. With the examination of the consequences of bullying, let's next examine the cause or reasons why this problem exists. Students often do not like attending class or enjoy school for the fear of being bullied. Being bullied often will lead students to suffer academically. In fact, according to an article written by Woolport, a high level of bullying was consistently associated with lower grades across the 3 years of middle school. The students who were rated the most bullied performed substantially worse academically than their peers. Many teachers also mistake students and their silence for not participating in class because of them not being motivated or wanting to learn. But in fact, according to Jana Juvin, a UCLA professor of psychology and lead author of the study, said students who are repeatedly bullied receive poor grades and participate less in class discussions. Now that we know how it affects academic performance, let's talk about the mental and physical harm. Bullying leaves victims with very serious long-term effects on emotional and physical health. Students who suffer from bullying often experience depression and anxiety and sometimes shut everyone out. According to Scholastic Choices, targets face a huge amount of stress, which can also lead to depression. According to a new study of JAMA Psychiatry, kids who had been victims or never been bullied, or people and students who have been bullied, had greater risk for depressive disorders, anxiety disorders, and generalized anxiety, including panic disorders as they got older. Many also suffer from physical harm or thoughts of it, and even potentially leading up to suicide or suicidal thoughts. In fact, according to research, about 25% of these participants bullied said they had suicidal thoughts as they got older and as young adults. Being a victim of bullying is a high risk factor for serious emotional and physical harm. So what can we do to solve the problem of bullying? Students who bully should face the consequence of expulsion. I say this because expulsion allows the bully to deal with their consequences firsthand. They should have thought about the consequences and also about how they were making their victims feel. Expulsion is definitely an eye-opener for bullies and everyone else that is currently involved. It sends a direct message that bullying will not be tolerated while protecting the person who is being bullied. Additionally, this allows the bully to reevaluate their actions and start making a change for themselves moving forward. This consequence can help fix the immediate problem of bullying we face at school. Bullying is currently everywhere and it's constantly affecting students and people worldwide. Feeling safe at school is the number one important thing, and not having that sense of safety due to bullying isn't okay. The physical and emotional damage that bullying is leaving behind on students and bully victims needs to stop. Automatic expulsion for the bullies may seem harsh, but in the end, the effects of bullying are way much worse. The evidence I found shows that bullying can cause students and or victims to struggle to live a normal day-to-day life, and giving consequences such as expulsion can lead to end of bullying. If you didn't know already, there are a bunch of lists of anti-bullying laws and regulations that there currently are, and if you didn't know, schools also should have those listed upon counselors or teachers. And remember, don't be a zero, be a hero, and refrain from being a bully.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Okay, I think that was all our speakers today. I'm going to stop the recording.